They say silence is peaceful. But the silence after betrayal, it screams that it was an ordinary Thursday when my phone lit up. One message that split my world in half: we're doing Thanksgiving with the well-behaved kids this year. Yours can skip it. That was it. No warning. No kindness. Just surgical cruelty. My mother's name glowed on the screen like a wound that refused to close. Across the room, my daughter Lena was cutting paper leaves for her school's thankful tree. She looked up, all bright eyes and innocence. "Mom, what did Grandma say?" I tried to smile, but my face betrayed me. Her little hands froze mid-cut. Did I do something wrong?" And in that tiny, trembling voice, I heard the sound of my own childhood breaking all over again. I held her. Her tears soaked my shoulder, but what I felt wasn't heartbreak. It was clarity. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was the quiet, icy realization that I'd been raising my daughter in the shadow of people who never knew how to love. When she finally fell asleep, I tucked her in, gave her extra whipped cream with her ice cream, and went to my office. No arguments. No confrontation. Just action. I opened my laptop, the one that had funded their feasts for years, and began to undo it all. The 20-pound organic turkey? Cancelled. The artisanal catering my mother bragged about? Gone. The imported wine and centerpieces she claimed she arranged herself? Deleted with a click. Every cancellation felt like pulling another rotten plank out of a house I'd been forced to hold up alone. Their family chat kept buzzing. Selfies, cheers, hashtags about gratitude. They had no idea their royal banquet had just vanished into thin air, but this wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. For years I'd explained away their cruelty. When Lena's birthdays were forgotten, I called it bad timing. When they gifted my brother's kids new tablets and gave her a $10 gift card, I said, it's the thought that counts. When they whispered her nickname, the little one, as if her name was too much effort, I swallowed it. I told myself keeping peace was love, but that night, I saw the truth. Peace without respect isn't peace, it's surrender. And I was done surrendering. The Monday after the cancelled Thanksgiving, the calls began. My brother first, pretending concern. Then my father. Then finally my mother's voice, trembling with what she called a small emergency. "Sweetheart," she said, "we're having some issues with the mortgage. Just a temporary thing." But I already knew. A few months earlier, a letter meant for them had been delivered to my house. A car loan, co-signed for my brother, $24,000. Their home was the collateral. I could have ignored it. I should have, but the little girl in me still wanted to be the good daughter. So, I paid it. Quietly. Directly. Not for them, but for the house that held my earliest memories. When the foreclosure notice vanished, they called again, this time sweet as sugar. "Thank you, darling. We should celebrate. Maybe a special day for Lena, just the two of us." I let myself believe, stupidly, that maybe this was changed. Lena spent all morning getting ready. Her sparkly boots. Her tiny purse. Her whole heart in one afternoon. 4 hours later, she came home silent. My mother muttered something about the mall being too crowded and left before I could ask anything. Later that night, I found Lena in her room, clutching a little snowman keychain, the only thing they bought her. Between sobs, she told me they'd spent the day shopping for my brother's kids, and when she asked for a small doll, she overheard my mother say, "We've already spent enough on the real grandkids." That sentence didn't just wound me, it incinerated whatever was left of my loyalty. A few weeks later, another call. This time from my father. He needed a small favor, money for my brother's traffic fines. He joked that I should consider it an early inheritance. That's when I stopped being their daughter. I became what they'd always treated me as, a resource, and so, I did what I do for my clients. I investigated public records. Financial disclosures. What I found wasn't just debt, it was deception. A secret second mortgage. Loans in default. They hadn't been struggling, they'd been scheming, and every favor was just another trap. So when my father called again, desperate now, I answered. For once, I didn't cry. No, I said simply. He stammered, "We're family, Rachel. You don't turn your back on family." I asked, quietly, "Does Lena count as family?" There was silence. 10 seconds. 20. He never answered. That silence told me everything I'd ever needed to know. The next day, My mother texted her final cruelty. We always knew you'd punish us for not loving your mistake. Her mistake, that was the word that explained it all. Every forgotten birthday, every forced smile, every lie I'd told myself to keep the peace, that I blocked them all. My mother. My father. My brother. Every number. Every platform, not a break. A severance. The following weeks were quiet, but not empty. There were voicemails from relatives, guilt trips disguised as concern, emails with subject lines like, "Let's talk." Letters that smelled like old perfume and manipulation. That I deleted them all. Then one evening, they showed up at my door. Through the peephole, I saw my mother clutching a folder, my father looking older, smaller. That I opened the door, just enough to see their faces behind the screen. The barrier felt symbolic. They were outside now, where they belonged. Before they could speak, I said, "You were willing to let my daughter feel worthless just so you could keep pretending we were happy." My voice was steady. Final. That I'm why mother's lips trembled. "So she doesn't forget us." I looked her dead in the eye. "You made sure she never could." And I closed the door. 19 days later, their house sold. They moved in with my brother, their golden boy, their chosen heir, Lena, and I didn't speak of them again. Our life became beautifully simple. Spaghetti on Tuesdays, movie nights under one blanket, whipped cream on everything just because we could. It wasn't a grand life, but it was real. It was ours. That I was finally teaching my daughter what love should look like. Not something you earn. Something you are. And as I watched her laugh, really laugh, I realized peace isn't found in forgiveness. Sometimes it's found in the decision to stop letting people earn access to your pain. That if you've ever had to choose between family and self-respect, you already know, sometimes survival looks like closing the door and throwing away the key. So tell me, have you ever had to walk away from people who call themselves family? Share your story in the comments. Maybe together, we'll redefine what family really means.